SuperTalk Mississippi media production.
When you lose a loved one, you need a neighbor you can trust. At Memorial Funeral Home in Corinth, we provide compassionate care tailored to your family's needs. Visit us at 613 Bunch Street or online at memorialcorinth.com. Memorial Funeral Home, honoring lives with dignity for generations.
Oh, yeah.
Good morning, Mississippi.
Everything gonna be all right this morning.
Mornings with Richard Cross.
Oh, yeah.
Here on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Woo! Now, when I was a young boy, at the age of 5, my mother said I was gonna be the greatest man alive. But now I'm a man, way past 21.
Hey, good morning. Welcome in. You got it locked in for another day, another morning of Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi. And I say thank you for joining us alongside Lance Tolbert. Slow down, Richard. Just slow down. Take a breath. Alongside Lance Tolbert, I'm Richard Cross. Thanks for being with us this morning. You can join the conversation on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. That's the number to jump in and be part of the conversation, 601-879-4395. Right now at C Spire, new and current customers can get a free phone, watch, and tablet plus 100 gigs of data for just $90. There's more to see. Visit cspire.com today. Lance, good morning.
Good morning, RC. I saw you were doing a little double duty yesterday. You got a little sports fix in.
Yes, I did.
How was that? Fun stuff, huh?
Yeah, we had a good time. It had been a little while, and Hey Dad was out yesterday, so able to hang out with Borky for a few hours yesterday afternoon, and now back at it this morning. And man, have we got a lot to talk about this morning.
Well, when is this time of year in sports? I mean, you got basketball's out of the way, the draft's coming up, baseball is hot and heavy. So was it pretty much a baseball conversation, or were y'all covering some of the draft potential yesterday? You know,
foosball never seems to really go away.
I won a lot of beer playing foosball.
Yeah. So, yes, plenty of baseball. And if you missed any of that yesterday afternoon, you can go back and listen online at supertalk.fm or check out the Sports Talk Mississippi podcast. We are busy this morning. Got a lot going on, a couple of great guests for you, including former Mississippi Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn, who has announced his candidacy as governor or to be governor. He's going to join us at 7:20 this morning, and Courtney Taylor is going to join us, Executive Director at Accelerate Mississippi. Dr. Courtney Taylor will be along in the 8 o'clock hour. You want to talk about somebody that has a lot on their plate and has been handed a lot of responsibility. You don't talk economic development without workforce development. And the governor of the state of Mississippi talks economic development a lot. So look forward to our conversation with Courtney Taylor coming up this morning on what appears as if it is going to be another beautiful day in the Magnolia State. Really north to south, east to west, we're looking at high 70s, low 80s. South Haven in northwest Mississippi, just south of Memphis, you've got a high of 81 today with a low of 55 overnight tonight. Mostly sunny, chance of some overcast skies late in the day. Very little chance of precipitation with a south and southwest wind at about 5 to 10 miles per hour. Just going to be a great day to be outside in South Haven. Gluckstadt, you're looking at about 77, maybe 78 for your high today with an overnight low of about 58. partly to mostly cloudy with a low chance of showers. Maybe an isolated thunderstorm sometime late this afternoon. Going to be nice. Petal in the greater Hattiesburg area, 80 degrees for your high today with an overnight low of 59. Low chance of a scattered shower or potentially a thunderstorm. Ocean Springs. Oh, beautiful Ocean Springs. 78 degrees for the high. 64 tonight for the overnight low. Some clouds, chance of showers or thunderstorms in the maybe 35% range. Mild and breezy near the Gulf with the warmest overnight lows among the areas. That little breeze coming off the Gulf. Wouldn't you like to stroll around in Ocean Springs today, Lance?
Oh, yeah.
Have a nice little lazy lunch.
Mostly
check out an art museum.
Some beignets and the Anderson Art Museum. I always love going into that place. Even if you've seen it before, it just doesn't get old.
So you're going beignets at lunch?
Oh, of course, yeah. You're going to be in Ocean Springs. I'm not waking up at 4 a.m., so probably going to sleep in a little bit.
Okay.
Get a coffee, midday coffee. An iced one probably, but some beignets, and then just stroll around, catch all the good stuff.
Love it.
Yeah.
Anna New Hope checks in this morning, says, touch of fog in the GTR, the Golden Triangle this morning. Good to hear from you. I know summer is on the way when the Bluebell commercial starts the day.
Exactly. I've heard
Bluebell ice cream. That's the one we're talking about?
Yep. I heard it this morning.
Beautiful.
Like ice cream for breakfast.
I don't think I would judge you for that.
No. I mean, are you one of those that when you were a kid and you had, the Breyers ice cream and you had the chocolate syrup and you'd pour it all over it, did you eat it just like that, or did you mix it in and make it into a mush pit of ice cream and chocolate?
No.
You just
I would eat it with the drizzle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Some people would like to stir it in, and kind of turn it into almost a porridge of ice cream.
If I wanted chocolate ice cream, I'd get chocolate ice cream, but I want vanilla ice cream with the chocolate drizzle over the top.
I'm just asking, man. I have no problem with your style. Yeah, I love it.
Were you a mixer?
I do what I just love ice cream. So if it was available, it was I'd eat a bowl with it drizzled, and I'd be like, I think I want seconds.
We were coming home from Louisiana. I told you about that trip on Saturday, and Obie and I were clipping along, and we had eaten the catfish at Middendorf's, and we skipped on dessert, and we were getting up the road to Jackson, and I said, hey, buddy, you want to stop and get some ice cream? Oh, yeah, that sounds good. Now, I did not have in mind any kind of an elaborate stop or, any gourmet. I was just thinking, hey, we'll duck into a gas station, we'll get some ice cream. So we stopped at a gas station in the greater Madison area. Mm-hmm. A lot of options there. And we both selected our ice cream, going with a little pint.
Oh, okay, yeah.
We get to the checkout. Hey, Coach, can I get a spoon? Don't have any.
Oh, man.
He's like, how about a fork? I said, how about no?
Fork and some ice cream.
He's like, hold on a second, let me go look in the back. Comes back, sorry, man, no spoon. I was like, sorry, man, can't buy the ice cream. We left. Felt bad. But, I mean, how am I going to eat ice cream with a fork?
Yeah. That's kind of the way I feel. I love getting, out of the ice cream box over there. There's all kind of options, the ice cream sandwiches and the Snickers bar and the Twix. I'm kind of a junkie for those at times.
Yeah.
I go days in a row of getting one, and then I'm like, I can better stop.
Yeah, you can get yourself in trouble in a hurry. We got back in the car, and I was thinking, at one point there was a marble slab on that Madison exit.
Yeah, I know where that one is, yeah.
It's not there anymore. And I said, buddy, baby, we're wasting time. We got to go home. He's like, all right, let's go. So we pulled up to the Gluckstadt exit and took another right.
Another try.
It's like, we're going to try this one more time. And thankfully they had spoons.
Hey, man, the old Choco Taco is good in a pinch.
Yeah.
Those aren't bad.
Yeah, no, there were some options, but it's like at that point I had committed to
ice cream, yeah.
I want ice cream with a spoon from a carton.
Diet ice cream with a fork, Kevin in Monticello says.
Yeah. Butterfinger ice cream bar now. Yeah, that's good. I've always liked the Snickers ice cream bar.
Yeah, I love that one. I love a Butterfinger. I have one in the truck right now that I didn't get to yesterday. So if you're telling me they have a Butterfinger ice cream bar, uh-oh.
Jeff in Grenada, am I the only person who smashes/blends peanut butter and jelly? It is so much better.
I have
Jeff?
friends of mine that do that.
Jeff, which part of Moscow do you live in, you communist? You are not the only one that does that, but I just wonder what in the world is wrong with you. That's not how a peanut butter and jelly is to be made. You lay out the 2 pieces of bread. You start with the peanut butter. You go with a thick spread on one side, then you jelly the other side, and then you flip them together. It's really not a complicated process. The idea that you want to take the peanut butter and put it in a bowl and the jelly and put it in a bowl and dirty up another spoon and then mash them together and put that awful whippiness where now you can't even taste what you're eating onto the bread? Ay, come on. Jeff, my daughter eats it that way. It drives me crazy. We're back with you after this. Mornings of Richard Cross, Super Talk, Mississippi.
Good morning from the...
Get the inside track on Mississippi politics. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Never ceases to amaze me the amount of interest and passion that exists around food takes. Kevin from the Tupelo Correctional Facility. I'm sorry, Kevin from Tupelo. He says, I used to work at the Tupelo Correctional Facility, and we would mix PB&J together, making the sandwiches faster. I understand if speed is the issue, that maybe that is a better way to go. It's just not a better way to make a sandwich for yourself to eat. George in Biloxi says, we got commies in the South. Nobody can be trusted. Aaron Barker, the guy who sings the Bluebell commercial, has written a lot of number one hits for George Strait. The King, right?
Yeah, there's another King, right.
Yeah. King of country music.
Aaron Barker, that's the guy that wrote the songs?
That's
the Bluebell guy?
That's what it says here.
I always wondered.
The C Spire text line is kind of like the internet. If it says it there, it's true. Peanut butter and banana, says Hogman. Occasionally, not my favorite.
That's the Elvis breakfast, basically, and lunch and dinner, I think.
Nathan have a bit of a confessional. He says, good morning, gentlemen. I was the same way with Taco Bell last week. Thursday at lunch, I realized it was my 3rd time eating it this week. I did have Dairy Queen twice as well, so kale salad for the rest of the month for me. Everything in moderation, Nathan. CC in Senatobia says, my sister could figure out a chemical equation that would give Einstein fits, but she would have problems making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Some people are like that. Mm-hmm. Peanut butter and jelly, non-paper plate, knife, mixed to an axle grease viscosity, very fresh bread, eat with white milk and potato chips. Well, Rockin' B, you and I could kind of get along. My lunch yesterday was peanut butter and jelly sandwich on a paper plate with Fritos and milk. Actually, I think I had a glass of water yesterday. Lance, you have a confession to make?
Yes. I've never eaten a peanut butter and jelly sandwich.
I don't believe you.
Ever.
I've
eaten peanut butter sandwiches before, but I've eaten a peanut butter and banana.
You've never had a Crustable? Or an Uncrustable?
God, no, those just, I can't. As I was telling you a story when I was younger, I had some buddies. They were 5 of them total, brothers, and it was hilarious because you'd go over there and there'd be this big, huge, mixing bowl, and they would pour like the, Sam's Club peanut butter in it, and then a Sam's Club jelly, and mix it all together with a boat paddle, basically. And there'd be 2 or 3 loaves of bread, and then they would all fight it out to see who got the most sandwiches. And I'd be standing there looking at this like, what is going on here? But I could not deal with that mix.
There are multiple problems here. Number one, we can no longer be friends. Number two, the ingredients matter.
Yes.
Jif, creamy peanut butter, and either Smucker's or Welch's for the jelly. Jeff's in Grenada says, Richard, now who's the commie if Lance says he's never had a PB&J?
I love peanut butter. I love the PB and banana. I've just never. I'm real selective on what I put jelly on. I like jelly, but my dad was one of those. He'd mix the jelly and the butter, and just into a soup. I'm not a big mixer. That's what I'm saying.
Low key underrated breakfast. Plain bagel, toasted, cream cheese with strawberry jelly on top.
Yeah, I'm in on that. I love that.
Catherine the Great was born on this day in 1729, the German-born Empress of Russia, who greatly expanded the Russian Empire through enlightened reforms and military conquests. Charlotte Bronte was born in 1816, the English novelist and poet, best known for her classic novel Jane Eyre. John Muir, Scottish-American naturalist, environmentalist, and author. He was the founder of the Sierra Club and a key figure in the creation of United States national parks. Muir Woods in California, named for him. In 1864, Max Weber was born, the German sociologist, economist, and philosopher, one of the founders of modern sociology, known for works like The Protestant Ethic and The Spirit of Capitalism. Anthony Quinn, the Mexican-American actor famous for roles in Zorba the Greek and Lawrence of Arabia, won a pair of Academy Awards. Queen Elizabeth II was born on this day in 1926, the longest reigning British monarch. She served from 1952 until her death in 2022, a defining figure in both the 20th and 21st centuries. Andie MacDowell was born on this day in 1958, the American actress and model who starred in films like Groundhog Day, 4 Weddings and a Funeral, and Sex, Lies, and Videotape.
Is there a movie that you could keep watching, like Groundhog Day? To me, I can watch it any time, but it's funny because, you're watching a movie that's on repeat, basically.
Yeah, it's like the same thing over and over.
Yeah, but it's a great movie. I love it.
Of course, Bill Murray in that as well.
Oh, yeah, that's obviously the show stealer.
Tony Danza was born on this day in 1951. You probably know him from Who's the Boss or maybe some infomercials.
Hey.
Tony Romo born on this day in 1980, the former quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, now a highly paid analyst on CBS. This day in 735, pretty significant day historically. According to Roman tradition, twin brothers Romulus and Remus founded the city of Rome on this day. In 1509, Henry VIII was crowned King of England. He ascended the throne, beginning one of the most famous and turbulent reigns in English history, marked by 6 marriages and the English Reformation.
Not sure you want the guy that has been married 6 times leading a reform, but hey,
Texan forces led by Sam Houston decisively defeated the Mexican army under General Antonio Lopez de Santa Anna in just 18 minutes. On this day in 1836 in the Battle of San Jacinto, securing Texas independence from Mexico. In 1918, the German World War I fighter ace Manfred von Richthofen, the Red Baron, was credited with 80 aerial victories. He was shot down and killed over France. And, of course, he invented pizza.
Yeah, the best pizza you can get at Kroger.
On April 21st, 1927, Mounds Landing Levee breach. The most significant Mississippi event on this date occurred when the levee at Mounds Landing near Greenville in the Mississippi Delta, about 12 miles north of Greenville, catastrophically failed. The breach was a pivotal moment in the Great Mississippi Flood of 1927, the most destructive river flood in American history. Heavy rains had swollen the river for months when the levee gave way. It unleashed floodwaters and submerged millions of acres across the Delta. Greenville flooded the next day, with water reaching depths of 10 to 30 feet in places. The flood displaced hundreds of thousands of people, killed around 250 statewide, and caused massive economic damage, estimated at the time to be about $350 million worth, billions in today's dollars.
30 feet. I mean, that is outrageous.
Yeah,
when you're in the Delta, if you look at a tree and it's like, where the water was 15 feet up, see that all the time. I mean, at 30 feet, good Lord.
Yeah. 1972, NASA astronauts John Young and Charles Duke landed the Apollo lunar module on the moon's Descartes Highlands, the fifth crewed lunar landing. Around 100,000 students gathered in Beijing's Tiananmen Square to mourn reformist leader Hu Yaobong, sparking a massive pro-democracy protest that defined the year as the Tiananmen Square protest began gathering momentum. And in 2016, legendary musician Prince died at the age of 57 at his Paisley Park estate in Minnesota, marking the end of one of pop, funk, and rock's most innovative careers. Prince.
He's a dude now.
Man, he was talented.
The story, of he and, was it Morris Day, the competition they had, Morris Day and the Time, and Prince, they eventually became really good friends, but that really pushed him to be the what he became, Prince, as far as his music, because he was, his dad was a musician. He was naturally gifted, but he had to have that competition, man. That competition pushed him to the edge. And love the story Charlie Murphy tells about the basketball game, about how competitive he was.
Aaron Barker, part of the Nashville Songwriters Hall of Fame, prominent country music songwriter known for writing several number one hits for George Strait, such as Baby Blue and Love Without End, Amen. We've got news headlines coming up for you next, and then we'll get into your morning sports update brought to you by Pearl River Resort. An update from the Mississippi Lottery, and then we will check in on what is happening in and around Iran and the Strait of Hormuz, and in Pakistan as well. Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. Online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community.
From the Keeping Mississippi in the know, one morning at a time. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
Good morning once again. Glad to be with you. We welcome you to the conversation on the C Spire text line. Right now at C Spire, new and current customers can get a free phone, watch, and tablet plus 100 gigs of data for just $90. There's more to see. Visit cspire.com today. You may have seen this story beginning to develop as we take a look at news headlines this morning, especially those that are affecting the state of Mississippi. A letter yesterday, it's actually dated April 10th, from the United States Department of Agriculture, Brooke Appleton, the Deputy Undersecretary to the Governor, Tate Reeves. Dear Governor Reeves, I am designating 21 Mississippi counties as primary natural disaster areas due to a recent drought. I'm responding on behalf of the department. According to the U.S. Drought Monitor, these counties suffered from a drought immediate intensity value during the growing season of the early part of this year. The Consolidated Farm and Rural Development Act, per Section 321, additional areas of your state and adjacent areas are named as contiguous disaster counties. Secretary of Agriculture Andy Gibson weighed in on this yesterday. He posted on X, a very large portion of Mississippi is in a drought situation. Even at this early stage of the year, I received and am sharing a copy of the USDA's letter designating a drought disaster in 21 primary counties, plus 24 contiguous counties. I encourage you to review this list and visit your local Farm Service Agency office. Unless we receive significant rainfall soon, I expect the drought-affected county list may grow. Please pray for all our farmers. The primary counties in the drought area: Adams, Amite, Bolivar, Calhoun, Claiborne, Coahoma, Copiah, Franklin, Greene, Grenada, Jefferson, Lafayette, LaFleur, Lincoln. Panola, Perry, Quitman, Sunflower, Tallahatchie, Wilkinson, and Yellowbusha. We've talked for a couple of weeks about the forecast, kind of looking at it, and, we've had the beautiful days, temperatures in the upper 70s and the low 80s, but very, very little rain from the late part of the winter into the early part of the spring, and it is already causing an issue for farmers. You get into that mindset where you're like, man, what a beautiful day, but we sure could use some rain. We'll keep an eye on that as it continues to develop as we go deeper into the spring and toward the summer. A Natchez mother is behind bars after allegedly sending threatening photos involving her 4-month-old baby to the child's father. Police Chief Lee Best said the unidentified father notified law enforcement of the messages on Monday morning. The father also shared the pictures on social media, but later deleted the posts. The pictures in question are said to have shown the infant lying underneath a vehicle with a person's foot on the baby's stomach. The accused subject behind the messages was identified as 27-year-old April Alexander. She currently is in the custody of Adams County Sheriff's Department on an attempted murder charge. Officials say the infant was located and thankfully is now in the custody of Child Protection Services. Alexander, not the only person arrested. Police said that 2 other individuals, Jessica Griffin and Dandridge Coates, attempted to hide Alexander in their home while officers were looking for her. They both face charges of hindering prosecution and rendering criminal assistance. What in the world is wrong with people? Man. The Mississippi Department of Public Safety is warning residents to beware of a statewide scam. Folks across the state have received a text message from a sender purporting to be from a driver service bureau. The message notifies the recipient that they have an unsettled traffic violation and must pay a fine to avoid further legal action, including suspension of their driver's license. Generally, there is a link that is provided, with the recipient encouraged to click it to satisfy what the scammer says is an outstanding balance. Officials with DPS strongly urge the public, do not click any links with these messages and delete the text immediately after reporting it as spam. Officials remind Mississippians that government agencies will never demand payment or threaten legal action via text message. Any message that indicates one is in hot water over an unpaid fine is almost certainly a scam. I got that message yesterday. It came from a 401 number, and it was a screenshot that said State of Mississippi and the Circuit Court of Hinds County Traffic Division, final court-ordered mandatory collection notice. Did you get one of those, Lance?
No, but you paid it, right?
Oh, yeah, immediately.
Definitely.
Thomas says, this one? Yep, Thomas, you're right. Same one.
Yeah, I think my phone may be a little too old to even receive that PDF, so we're good.
Be careful. Somebody says, I got that text message. It was real easy to look and see that the number that they provided was not a Hinds County circuit clerk number. So heads up on that. Speaking of Hinds County, the Hinds County Chancery Courthouse and all offices within have returned to normal operations following a potential hazardous device threat yesterday. Sheriff Tyree Jones, reported just before 9:30 on Monday that the government building in Jackson had been evacuated. His team and other law enforcement partners responded to the scene to investigate the incident and ultimately determined that it was safe for the facility to reopen. It's the second time in as many weeks that a suspicious device threat prompted the evacuation of government offices in Jackson. Third time it's happened this year. Back on April 13th, the Hinds County Circuit Courthouse and Hinds County Circuit Clerk's Office had to suspend operations due to the potential threat. They were opened later in the day. It happened back in February at the Circuit and Chancery Courthouses when they were temporarily closed after someone had pinned unspecified notes at the doors of the facilities and vandalized them with spray paint. No arrests have been made in any of these cases. It's time for your morning sports update, brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Online, you can find them at pearlriverresort.com, or you can do one better. You can visit them in person. And don't forget about the Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. Beautiful time of year to be on the golf course. Book your tee time at dancingrabbitgolf.com, dancingrabbitgolf.com. Lance, I think I have, to this point, kind of avoided the seasonal allergy stuff. Whew. Just overnight, it has hit with a vengeance.
I had a day last week where I showed up at the office, everything was fine, and got the sneezes, and about the time I got out of here and went back outside and readjusted, I was okay. But yeah, I had a pretty rough little sneeze fest. It's like Tuesday or Wednesday of last week, so I know how you feel.
Yeah.
Felt like I'd, escaped it, and then all of a sudden it just hit me right in the mouth.
Yeah. We got baseball going on tonight across the state of Mississippi. Southern Miss hosting Tulane in the first of a pair of midweek matchups with the Green Wave. Tonight in Hattiesburg, next Tuesday night in New Orleans. Mississippi State is hosting Memphis in midweek action, and Ole Miss has Murray State coming to Oxford. Murray State was the team that came to Oxford last June and won the Oxford Regional, advancing to a Super Regional and ultimately the College World Series. D1 Baseball's new top 25 is out, and there is great representation from the state of Mississippi. Mississippi State, the highest-ranked Magnolia State team at number 15, just 2 spots below them at number 17. Ole Miss, who made a big jump in the polls this week from 25, where they were ranked for the last 2 weeks, 1 spot behind Ole Miss. Southern Mississippi at number 18. UCLA remains the number 1 team in the country for the 10th consecutive week, followed by North Carolina, Georgia Tech, Texas at number 4, and Georgia at number 5. Ole Miss is hosting Georgia in Oxford this weekend. Southern Miss hitting the road to Mobile to take on South Alabama, and Mississippi State has LSU coming to town. News from the NBA. We don't give you that very often, but this was kind of an interesting story. Spurs star Victor Wembanyama is the first unanimous winner of the Defensive Player of the Year. First to win the award unanimously, the 7'4" phenom predicted this path for himself just before fellow Frenchman Rudy Gobert was named Defensive Player of the Year for the 4th time at the end of Wembanyama's first season in 2024. The then 20-year-old said in French that Gobert's days of winning the award were numbered. He said, "I know that Rudy has a very good chance of winning it this year, and it would be deserved. Let him win it now, because after that, it's no longer his turn." Ain't bragging if you can do it. Isn't that what Yogi said?
I think so, yeah.
That's your morning sports update, brought to you by Pearl River Resort. Online at pearlriverresort.com.
Good morning from the
Know where the news is going next. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Time for your Mississippi Lottery update, brought to you by the Mississippi Lottery, online at mslottery.com. We are glad to be with you on this Tuesday morning, the 21st of April. There was no jackpot winner for the Powerball last night, which means Wednesday night's drawing is now up to $100 million. The estimated cash value for that prize is $45.6 million. Last night's numbers, 9, 17, 36, 47, and 64, with a Powerball of 26. Tonight you've got a Mega Millions jackpot drawing. $140 million is the estimated jackpot, with the estimated cash value just shy of $63 million. Download the Mississippi Lottery app today. With just a tap, you can scan your tickets to see if you're a winner. Fast, easy, and right from your phone. Didn't win? Don't toss it. Enter your non-winning tickets into second chance promotions for another shot at big cash prizes. Plus, get the latest news on new games, jackpots, and special promotions. It's simple, it's convenient, and it keeps the fun going. Download the Mississippi Lottery official app today. You got winners all over the place in the state of Mississippi, including a Gadsden, Alabama woman that won $50,000 on a Powerball ticket from Sprint Mart in Fulton. You also had a $2 double match scratch-off winner. A Jackson woman pocketed $5,000 on a ticket from T&A Food and Gas in Jackson. Find out if you are a winner, and remember, you can't win if you don't play. Mornings with Richard Cross is presented by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're more than just a place to manage your money. We're your neighbors, your partners, and your trusted financial advisors. For decades, we've been rooted in our community, helping families, small businesses, and individuals achieve their dreams, whether it's opening your first savings account, planning for a brighter future, or growing your business. We're here every step of the way. We're dedicated to our customers, committed to your success, and always here when you need us. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC. Don't forget, this weekend you have the 27th Double Decker Arts Festival, and Sports Talk Mississippi will be there to kick off the festivities at 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon. Double Decker is a 2-day celebration of music, food, and art on the historic Oxford Square. The music lineup begins on Friday at 6 and is highlighted by Shane Smith and the Saints that night at 9 o'clock. And then on Saturday, it's a full day of music, food, and fun, with Wilco taking the stage to wrap things up on Saturday night at 8:30. You've got the double-decker run and many other festivities. For more information, go to visitoxfordms.com. That's visitoxfordms.com. A lot to get to with you this morning. As I mentioned earlier, former Mississippi Speaker of the House Philip Gunn will join us at 7:20, about 25 minutes from right now. We will discuss his recent announcement that he is running for governor in 2027. What is it that prompted Philip Gunn to throw his name into the ring to run for the state's highest office? What are his thoughts, his plans, his platform, I suppose? We'll talk with that and more with Philip Gunn. Look forward to visiting with him coming up in a little while. And also Courtney Taylor from Accelerate Mississippi will be with us in the 8 o'clock hour. Look forward to the conversation with her. A lot to get to. Don't forget the C Spire text line is open to you at 601-879-4395, 601-879-4395. DW in Madison said, Richard, I got one of those scam notices yesterday for a toll road violation. I laughed while I was deleting it. Yet there's a problem with that, DW. I don't think we have any toll roads in Mississippi, do we?
I mean, you could, if you pull in my driveway, I'll be happy to charge you, but no, I don't think we have toll roads here at all.
Yeah. A lot of people got that message yesterday, so heads up, it is a scam. Delete it. Make sure you report it as spam with your carrier, and perhaps that will go away. Wonder how many people went with that.
Yeah. Clicked
on the link or scanned the QR code. Hopefully not many.
Gotta love a scammer, huh? Jeez. Seem to be everywhere.
Just out there hustling.
Yeah, out there multiplying like rabbits.
Good to be with you this morning. The 7 o'clock hour is on the way. News is coming up. Fox News and the SuperTalk Mississippi news team as well. We're back with you after this timeout. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk Mississippi.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, and callers on this show are not the opinions of TeleSouth Communications, its management, or advertisers.
No filibuster. Just everything you need to know to start your day smarter. Mornings with Richard Cross on Super Talk, Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, online at communitybank.net. Community Bank, rooted in our community. Thanks for joining us. This hour of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by MWG Employer Services. Running a business is tough, and if you're struggling with HR, payroll, and benefits, you're not alone. MWG Employer Services can help. They will visit with you, talk with you about your needs, and then develop a plan, a custom plan that works for you, making life easier. Learn more or give them a call and talk to them. Find out how they can help your business at 601-206-7966 or go to mwgemployerservices.com. You may have seen the news yesterday that Tim Cook is stepping down as the CEO of Apple. Got a notation to talk more about that later in this 7 o'clock hour. It is not uncommon for a president, the president of the United States, when a titan of industry announces at least a partial retirement, to congratulate that titan of industry on retirement. Seen that from presidents throughout the years, but nobody congratulates someone quite like this president. I have to read this to you in its entirety. I read it during the break, and I laughed, and I was like, Lance, have you seen this? He said, yeah, I just sent it to you. Donald Trump on Truth Social early this morning. The president writes, I've always been a big fan of Tim Cook and likewise Steve Jobs, but if Steve was not taken from planet Earth so young and ran the company instead of Tim, the company would have done well, but nowhere near as well as it has under Tim. For me, it began with a phone call from Tim at the beginning of my first term. He had a fairly large problem that only I, as president, could fix. Most people would have paid millions of dollars to a consultant who I probably would not have known, but who would have said that they know me very well. The fees would be paid, but the job would not have gotten done. When I got the call, I said, wow, it's Tim Cook calling. How big is that? I was very impressed with myself to have the head of Apple calling to kiss my hiney. Anyway, he explained his problem, a tough one it was. I felt he was right and got it taken care of quickly and effectively. That was the beginning of a long and very nice relationship. During my 5 years as president, Tim would call me, but never too much, and I would help him where I could. Years later, after 3 or 4 big helps, I started to say to people, anyone who would listen, that this guy is an amazing manager and leader. He makes these calls to me, I help him out, but not always, because he will, on occasion, be too aggressive in his ask. And he gets the job done quickly, without a dime being given to those very expensive, millions of dollars consultants around town who sometimes get it done and sometimes don't. Anyway, Tim Cook had an amazing career, almost incomparable, and will go on and continue to do great work for Apple and whatever else he chooses to work on. Quite simply, Tim Cook is an incredible guy.
You got to love it. I mean, who else could pull off a compliment such as that?
Completely making the compliment about himself.
Of course.
While also lacing in laudatory words for Tim Apple, or Tim Cook, if you prefer. I love that he called it. He said, I got the call, and I said, wow, it's Tim Apple. I was curious how much money Tim Apple made during his time as the CEO there. Let's just say it's a staggering amount. I'll give you the breakdown later this morning. Well, what's going on in Iran? The president, as he is sometimes wont to do, offer mixed messages in a series of phone calls yesterday about the path ahead for the United States war against Iran, declaring that he was in no rush to end the conflict while also expressing confidence that further negotiations with Tehran will soon take place in Pakistan. The 14-day ceasefire is set to expire tomorrow. And the AP writes, Trump whipsawed in telephone interviews and social media posts between measured optimism that a deal could soon be reached and warning that lots of bombs will start going off if there's no agreement before the ceasefire deadline. Trump indicated that he still expects to dispatch his negotiating team, led by Vice President J.D. Vance, to Islamabad for a second round of talks, even as Iran insisted it would not take part until Trump dialed back his demands. The chief negotiator and parliament speaker for Iran, Mohammad Bagher Kalibaf, accused the United States of wanting Iran to surrender and added that, on the contrary, Iran has been preparing to reveal new cards on the battlefield. If there are new cards to be revealed on the battlefield, indicators are that those new cards are coming from the Chinese. That ship that was boarded yesterday, day before yesterday, by Marines after it was fired on by the Navy, was headed from China to Iran and is linked to chemical shipments for missiles. That ship refused repeated orders to stop. Nikki Haley, the former ambassador to the United Nations, pointed out that it is another reminder that China is helping prop up Iran's regime, a reality that cannot be ignored. However, at the same time, yesterday we got China coming out and saying, hey, the strait needs to reopen. China is feeling the economic crunch of oil and liquid natural gas shipments not moving freely through the Gulf. Through the Gulf, but specifically through the strait. That Iranian flagship, Tuska, which the U.S. military seized yesterday, was inbound from China loaded with dual-use chemicals used to manufacture ballistic missiles. Marines are searching 5,000 containers on board. Whew.
China another one today too.
Yeah. I was gonna mention that. There was another ship that was seized, according to the Department of War. Overnight, U.S. forces conducted a right of visit, maritime interdiction, and boarding of the stateless sanctioned MT Tiffany without incident. It was in the Indo-Pacific portion of the ocean. Department of War says, as we have made clear, we will pursue global maritime enforcement efforts to disrupt illicit networks and interdict sanctioned vessels providing material support to Iran anywhere they operate. International waters are not a refuge for sanctioned vessels. The Department of War will continue to deny illicit actors and their vessels freedom of maneuver in the maritime domain. This was one of those shadow fleet ships. Big old tanker.
Big old orange tanker.
Really an ugly boat.
Yeah. It's like, do a better paint job. Come on, man. It's not Auburn. Let's go with some powder blue and red.
Donald Trump also this morning on Truth Social posting, Iran has violated the ceasefire numerous times.
Also had an update this morning on Israeli strikes in Gaza Tuesday. Early, 4 suspected militants killed when a drone strike hit a security point just after midnight in the southern city of Khan Yunis.
George in Biloxi says, who else can punch you in the gut while patting you on your back? Our president is a gangster.
He is that.
CC in Senatobia says, yes, I like Tim, apple, bapple, bo bapple. C-Spire text line, the president is one sick dude. Still hard to believe we have elected him twice. Former Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn, has announced his candidacy to be the next governor of the state of Mississippi. We are 16 months from primary elections. We're talking about the 2027 election cycle. Philip Gunn will join us coming up next. Look forward to that conversation in just a matter of moments with you. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Good morning.
Pour yourself a cup of coffee and get the Magnolia State's most important news of the day. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
And begging down upon his bended knee, I'll play the part, but I won't need rehearsing.
If you want to join the conversation, you may do so on the C-Spire text line. With C-Spire, it's easier than ever to get all the devices you want in one move with the Ultimate Connect bundle. Right now, new and current customers can get a free phone, watch, and tablet plus 100 gigs of data for just $90. That includes the new iPhone 17 and Samsung Galaxy S26 for free, and a free smartwatch and a tablet to go with it. So don't wait. There's more to see. Visit cspire.com or stop by your local C-Spire store today. We are glad to be with you and glad to welcome our first guest this morning. It is a name that you know, that you recognize. He spent 12 years as the Speaker of the House in the Mississippi House of Representatives, the first Republican ever elected to that position, and now he has put his name in the mix to be the next governor of the state of Mississippi, the 2027 election cycle with primaries, 16 months away. He is Philip Gunn. Philip, good morning. I appreciate you coming in. Great to see you and glad to hear that big booming baritone voice again.
Well, good. Good morning, Richard. Great to be with you again. Always a pleasure to see you. I guess the last time I saw you was at Paul's funeral where we both spoke together. So it was a good occasion to celebrate his life. I think about him often, and but I'm also glad that you're now on the job. So you're doing a great job. Thanks for having me.
I appreciate that very much. Certainly, that was a great celebration of the life for Paul Gallo, and it has been a while since we visited. What have you been up to in the last year and a half?
Well, I've continuing to remain active in the political world. I'm doing government affairs work for a Balch and Bingham law firm here in Jackson, and that allows me to continue my relationships with my friends at the Capitol and in the government, and use those years of experience as Speaker to assist clients.
Why did you step down?
Well, I'm not a career politician. I know so many politicians just climb the ladder and they just run for the next highest office. And I had served 20 years in the legislature. I was instrumental, I think, in moving Mississippi forward in a lot of different arenas. This is something you may not know, but way back in 2006, I think we began the process of transitioning from Democrat control to Republican control in the House of Representatives. I was a 2-year legislator at that point in time. I got elected in 2004, and in 2006, I noticed that we continued to have trouble holding the Republicans together. I mentioned that to one of my more senior colleagues, and he expressed the same frustration that sometimes Republicans just don't vote the Republican line. They don't stay conservative. Why is that? We were in the minority back then. Keep that in mind.
Right.
We were probably 17 votes from being in the majority at that point. And so we had a dinner that night. I invited him and another colleague over to my house, and we ate pizza, and we talked about forming a Republican caucus, which was, to that point in time, not something we had. And it was a way we felt like would hold Republicans together, give them some unity, let them know that they have their colleagues, have their backs. And we birthed this idea of a Republican caucus, and we went to Haley Barber with it, who said, I think that's a good idea. And then we brought in a couple, maybe 4 more of our colleagues to bounce it off of them. They thought it was a good idea, and I think the rest is history, as they say. We met as a group of Republicans after that, and we formed the Republican caucus in 2006, which I think formed the foundation of unity and togetherness, which helped us then gain enough seats in 2011 to take over the House of Representatives for the first time in 136 years. Republicans now had a majority in the House, and that positioned us to take over in the 2011 elections, and we were able to elect a Republican Speaker for the first time in 136 years. And I think that was a defining moment that has now moved Mississippi in the right direction. When you look at the things we did over the last, or during the 12 years that I was the Speaker, working together as a unit, as a team, I think we made a lot of policy changes that are better for our state, and we got Mississippi moving in the right direction. So, again, I'm not a career politician. I'm not one that just sits there and climbs the ladder. But now I hear a call for leadership. I hear a call for, we're going to have an open seat. I think we've laid the foundation during those 12 years for a brighter future. And now it's time to build on that foundation. And I've had so many of my colleagues come to me, citizens and colleagues, to say, hey, we need that kind of leadership again. We wish you would step back into the game. And so I'm offering myself as a candidate once again.
As someone who served in that position of Speaker of the House, you understand probably better than most the importance of the House and the Senate being able to work together, and then the legislature as a whole being able to work in step with the governor. At times in our current setup, we have that, and it feels like it operates like a well-oiled machine. But there are also times where it feels like there's a squeaky wheel that feels like it's on the verge of falling off and kind of running the whole apparatus off into the ditch. And some of that is relationship based, good, bad, or otherwise. In terms of vision, with regard to if you were fortunate enough to be elected governor, how would you approach the relationship between the executive branch and the legislative branch for the overall good and working together for Mississippi?
Well, I'm glad you asked that because I think that is one of the strengths of my candidacy is that I do have those relationships today. I left the House of Representatives, I believe, on good terms. I had a working relationship with the senators during the time I was there. I think they know me. I know them. I would like to think I have their trust. We don't always agree. You're right. When you have 122 members in the House and 52 in the Senate, you're going to have a lot of opinions, a lot of disagreements, and you got to be able to work through those, and you got to be able to have the trust of those members in order to have those discussions. That's one of the things I've been saying is that I can start from day one as governor working on policy changes that are better for Mississippi. I don't have to build those relationships. I don't have to spend, there's not a learning curve. I don't have to spend a semester getting to know people, letting them get to know me. Of the names that I've heard potentially running, I'm the only one who has that credential. I'm the only one that has those relationships. And when you talk about all the things we did during those 12 years, Richard, that I believe made Mississippi better, that is a result of those relationships. I guess people need to understand, and sometimes it's boring to them, but you got to understand how the process works. When we moved education from 50th to 16th, and if you've seen some of the latest rankings, we're as high as 16th in the country. That resulted from a package of reforms that we passed back in 2013 that are now beginning to pay off. When you deal with legislators and you pass legislation that makes those changes, you're dealing with people that don't have to do what you say. This is not an employment environment. If you're the boss, if the owner of this radio station tells you what to do, you do it or you get fired. That's not the way it works in government. They don't have to do what I ask them to do. You have to have the ability to sit down, present the bill, argue why it's a good idea, say, I need your help. What are your concerns? And you have to gain that trust and persuade them to come along with you and do it. And you have to do that 62 times because 62 is a majority in the House of Representatives. And you got to do it 27 times on the Senate end of the building. So you got to have that ability to sit down and persuade people, not order people what to do. And that is a skill. That is a technique that I was able to develop over the 12 years I was a speaker, which has paid off. So any of the things that we talk about, whether it's in eliminating the income tax or the tax cut that we gave or the education improvements or the human trafficking bills that we passed or overturning Roe versus Wade, all those things that we did, that requires somebody who can sit down, talk to people, persuade them, get them on board. And like in the case of the income tax, you got to do it 74 times because that's a higher threshold to get that vote because it's a tax bill. So that's just a little bit of inside baseball as to why it's important to be able to have those skills and develop those relationships and persuade people to come along with you because they don't have to do what you say.
Philip Gunn is my guest, former Speaker of the House here in the state of Mississippi. You mentioned policy changes moving forward. Would like to unpack that a little bit more. You mentioned other candidates. It appears as if it is going to be a crowded field in the Republican primary for governor. You have, I've read, mentioned other tax elimination. Let's talk about that and how the state of Mississippi can continue to generate revenue, which is part of the process if you're going to get rid of taxes. And then the thing that we've already gotten multiple messages on about the flag. That is something that you will be talking about probably for the rest of your life. We will, and I applaud you for it. The courage that it took to step out and kind of lead the charge on changing the state flag. I am a huge advocate and proponent of. But as you well know, not everybody in the state of Mississippi is. We'll get to that coming up next. Philip Gunn, running for governor in Mississippi in 2027. We're back with you right after this.
From the Seabrook
Segment of Mornings with Richard Cross is brought to you by Covington County Hospital in Collins, where your health matters.
Shaping Mississippi politics each morning. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Mornings with Richard Cross with you on SuperTalk Mississippi. Philip Gunn is my guest, former Speaker of the House and candidate for governor here in the Magnolia State. Although we are a long way off, why was the timing of your announcement what it was? Because we're 16 months away from primaries. It feels
Right.
like the timeline for announcements has been accelerated.
Well, I of course, taking advice from my campaign team, campaign advisors who felt like waiting until the legislative session was over was a good thing. I think the legislative session was a distraction from anything else. It kind of dominates, if you will, the news cycle when they're in session. And then the week after that was the Easter, and people, of course, are more interested, as they should be, in Easter and anything political. And so we just waited until all those distractions were past. I think it's time to get out there and let people know that I'm running and spend the time reintroducing myself. The good news that I received was that my name ID continues to be what it was when I left. So haven't lost a lot as far as name ID in the last 2 years that I've been away. So those are good things, and now we are able to get out and get our message out for a longer period of time. So I felt like it was just the right time to do it.
There are rumors all over the place of what this field may look like in terms of the primary. You alluded to that just a second ago. We know that Andy Gibson, the Commissioner of Agriculture, months ago said that he was going to run for this office, and then names that continue to be thrown about include the Attorney General and the state auditor and potentially the Lieutenant Governor, and then Tommy Duff as a businessman in the state of Mississippi. What are your thoughts on what this field may look like?
Have no idea. I don't know what the thoughts of any of those individuals are. They, of course, will run their campaign as they see fit. I don't think the field is going to be that large at the end of the day. I can't tell you how many, but I think at the end of the day, not all those people engage and run.
Have you talked with any of the other potential candidates to get an idea for what they might be thinking?
Well, I have relationships with all of them through my years of working with them, and they're all good people. I think we're all Republicans. We all want what's best for Mississippi. I think the thing that distinguishes me from all of them are the things we've been talking about, the relationships I have, the experience I have in the legislative process. That's the one thing that distinguishes me from all the rest of them, is that I have been able to pass policy which has moved Mississippi forward, been involved in that process. I know the process. I know the individuals who are there. I know the House members, know the Senate members. I hear the names of those that are being put forward for Lieutenant Governor, and I have good relationships with all the names that I've heard. And I have, of course, a good relationship with Jason White, the man who took my place. And I think we could form a great team. We have the ability to hit the ground running on day one because of those relationships, and there won't be a learning curve.
Yeah. Philip Gunn is my guest. We're talking about the 2027 governor's race. I mentioned this before the break. I don't know if you consider this to be your most proud achievement or your crowning achievement. From my perspective, what you did in leading the charge for changing the flag for the state of Mississippi is one of the things that historically is going to be significant for all of history moving forward. But as you well know, there were many Mississippians that were not for that or didn't like the process by which that changed. It's something that you are going to be asked about over and over throughout your candidacy. Is that going to be an issue that you will have to address? Is it going to be something that you're going to feel like you need to shy away from?
Oh, no. I am very proud of what we did there. I think Mississippi is better for it, and I think we're beginning to see that in some of the economic development opportunities that are arising, which you take the Amazon project here in Madison County. I was not present when this was spoken, but it has been told to me that the executive said that was a factor in them coming here, that changing that flag helped with that. I've got a text on my phone from an economic developer in another part of the state where they just had a ribbon cutting with a $30 million investment, 150 jobs. And he told me that would not have happened without the changing of the flag. As far as my proudest moment, I would have to point to the overturning of Roe versus Wade probably is number one. We passed that bill that ended up overturning Roe versus Wade. That it generated from the Republican caucus in the House of Representatives. There were a number of people involved in making that happen, but I don't know that anything we ever did made more of an impact than that. But to get back to the flag, one I understand and respect the opinions of so many people who were passionate about that. And do not criticize them. They certainly have the right to voice their opinion and hold to their views. I think a couple of maybe 3 points that to be made. First of all, we mentioned earlier about the legislative process. We have a process that's founded in the Constitution of how we make laws, how we make policy changes. We followed that process. So we abided by the Constitution when we made that decision, and 92 of the 122 members of the House of Representatives voted for that. At least 35 or 36 of the 52 senators voted for that. It was an overwhelming 2/3 in both chambers that voted for that change. But the biggest statement is that 72% of the people of the state of Mississippi voted for that change. So it was just an affirmation that the people of the state overwhelmingly, it didn't pass 51-49. It passed 3 out of every 4 people in this state wanted that change. And
when you say
over
72%
over 2/3 of the yes, it was put on the ballot, as you recall, in November of 2020.
Right.
A new flag was adopted. It was put on there for ratification by the people, and they voted 72%, 73%, as I recall. So that is a strong statement that the people wanted this. But going back to the folks who don't necessarily agree with that, keep in mind they can still fly that flag. They can fly that flag. If we didn't take the flag from anybody, this is America. You can fly whatever flag you want, and so I checked out the prices at the flag store here in town. I think it's like $80. So for $80, you can get a flag and you can fly it. So they should not feel like their flag was taken, because they can still fly that flag if they want to.
But as a representation of the state of Mississippi, not having that has been significant. Yeah, you talk about economic development. To me, that has been kind of the crown jewel of Tate Reeves' tenure as governor. The number of dollars, the number of deals that have come into the state of Mississippi in terms of economic development and pushing that forward. When you talk about policy changes from where we are right now moving forward, what do you mean? And what is your stance on continuing to grow and maybe even diversify the economic development piece of the role that the governor holds?
Well, I think that's vital. I was in Oxford last week, and I had the opportunity to have dinner with 12 community leaders there in Oxford, all of whom were 40 to 45 years of age, raising kids, still having kids at home. As speaker, I had the opportunity to travel to all 82 counties in this state, had conversations with people from every walk of life, and one theme has emerged from those conversations, and that is we want our kids to stay here in Mississippi. We want them to grow up, stay here, and raise their families. And as I met with those gentlemen in Oxford, I asked, what do y'all see as the vision for the state? And the first thing one of them said is, I want Mississippi to be the kind of place where my kids grow up and want to stay here and raise their families. So then we talked about what does that look like? How do we make that happen?
Yeah.
And the economic side of that is a vital part of making that happen. What are the things that make us economically prosperous? And there are a number of things that fall in that category, and those are the things that I would be focused on. One is high-paying jobs. Yes, we need jobs, but we need high-paying jobs. Our median income in this state is the lowest in the country. So we got to be about attracting jobs that raise that level of income. I see energy sector, the artificial intelligence sector, the technology sector with AI and data centers and all that being a vital part of the future of this country. So I think those are some of the areas we need to be focused on to attract those high-paying jobs. We need to keep taxes low. And as you know, we led the charge back in 21 to eliminate the income tax.
Philip, let me interrupt you just
Yeah.
for a second. We're up against a break. If
Okay.
you can hang with me just for a couple more minutes, we'll wrap things up on
Okay,
the other
sure.
side of this timeout. Mornings with Richard Cross, Super Talk Mississippi, presented by Community Bank. We'll continue with Philip Gunn right after this.
Good morning from
Mornings with Richard Cross here on Super Talk Mississippi.
What else?
And always on the Super Talk app.
Great to be with you. Mornings with Richard Cross. I appreciate the time of former Speaker of the House, Philip Gunn, joining us in studio this morning. He is running for governor in Mississippi in 2027. And my apologies for interrupting before the break. Didn't want you to get cut off by that commercial break. But you were making the point that one of the things that would be attractive to people to be able to stay in Mississippi, not just high-paying jobs, but lower taxes. And when we talk about lower taxes, that's two-pronged, right? Everybody wants to lower taxes, but you also have to generate revenue. So how do you balance those two things?
Well, let's not forget we can also cut. We don't have to keep spending at the
hold on a
same
second.
level.
Now, that's not fun for anybody. Nobody wants to cut any spending.
Yes. Well, let's go back to the income tax. In 21, we decided that cutting the income tax is a good thing. That puts more money back into the pockets of our people. It allows them to retain more of their income. It lets them have a better ability to raise their families, provide for their families, improve their quality of life, give more to the community, give more to the church. There's just no downside to letting people keep more of their hard-earned money. We brought forward seven proposals to do that. We did not get a plan at that time for full elimination, but we did get the largest tax cut in history of our state, and we reformed our tax structure to make it more fair and equitable. I like to think that laid the foundation for the plan they passed last year, which is a plan to phase out the income tax completely. We were able to craft that in a way that accommodates for not just a gaping hole in the budget, but phases it out so that we can absorb those reductions. But in those discussions, one of my Republican colleagues on the other end of the building made that comment. How are we going to replace all this revenue? And I said, well, cutting the budget is an option. We can reduce spending. And it was like I threw cold water in their face. They never thought about that. So that works in conjunction with lowering taxes, controlling spending. And going back to the things we did during the 12 years I was a speaker, when we came in, when Tate Reeves was the lieutenant governor and I came in as speaker, and Phil Bryant was the governor. That was the first time since 1976 that all three of those positions were new. We inherited, I want to say, a $600 million deficit from the previous administration. We set out to eliminate that deficit and stay within our means. And I think I'm right on this. We always lived within our means. We never spent more money than we took in. In fact, we reduced the amount we spent in a lot of cases. So we've demonstrated an ability to control spending, stay within our means, not run a deficit. I think the last 2 years of my speakership, we didn't even have to do any debt because we had the money in the bank to pay for the projects that we were doing. And in 2020, when COVID hit, we were able to absorb that because we had so much money in the bank through responsible decisions on spending. So as we talk about further tax reductions, the property tax is one I would like to look at. We found a way to do it with income tax. We can find a way to do it with property taxes. That helps keep our young people here. As we talk about how do we make the young people stay in this state, buying a home, starting their families is a very large consideration, and property tax goes along with that. So I think that, along with food tax, being able to find ways to cut the food tax is another thing. They shouldn't have to pay a tax when they want to put food on the table. Safe communities is another part of keeping our young kids here. Health care, having good access to good health care, keeping our schools in a high quality condition. That's something we did during the 12 years I was a speaker. As we said, we moved from 50th to 16th. All the things that go into making a community a quality community are the things that I would love to devote time and attention to. And I know we're running short on time, but the other aspect of that, not just the economic prosperity, but the social stability. We have values here in Mississippi that are strong. It is the backbone and the strength of our community. We need to be about retaining those, preserving the sanctity of marriage, preserving the family unit, protecting the lives of the unborn, making sure our schools are safe, our religious freedoms are protected. We passed bills during my time as Speaker to address every one of those things, and we need to preserve those and continue to fight against a culture which is trying to change those things and turn Mississippi into something that is not the foundation of who we are.
One of the things that certainly you will be asked about, because it's been such a topic of conversation in this particular legislative session. You mentioned schools a couple of times. Where do you fall in this conversation about school choice?
Well,
and we may not have time to really dive into that today.
I appreciate you bringing that up with 30 seconds to go.
You're welcome.
Yeah. The bill that was brought forward this year obviously had a lot of concerns there. I think you got to start and see what those concerns are and try to find some measure in there that everybody can be happy with, and that is a very difficult thing considering, as we talked about, how legislation works.
Yeah. Might require compromise, which is difficult to do sometimes.
Compromise, that's a important word in the legislative process.
Philip Gunn, I know we'll visit again soon. I appreciate your time this morning and wish you all the best.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate you having me. Good to see you again.
Mornings with Richard Cross. We're back after the news.
Start your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
8 o'clock hour, good morning to you. Thanks for joining us. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi. Appreciate the time of Philip Gunn, former Speaker of the House in the Mississippi House of Representatives, and really enjoyed the conversation there. Mornings is presented by Community Bank. At Community Bank, we're here for every part of your financial journey. Looking to manage your personal finances? Our banking services make it simple, secure, and tailored to you. Ready to grow your business? We offer expert guidance and custom solutions to help your business thrive. Dreaming of a new home? Our mortgage specialists are here to make the process seamless, all designed with you in mind. We're more than just a bank. We're your partner for life's biggest moments. Community Bank, rooted in our community, member FDIC, equal housing lender. From one guest to a next, we continue this morning. One of my favorites, Courtney Taylor, joins us right now. Dr. Courtney Taylor, who is, she is the architect of Accelerate Mississippi, and I can't think of anybody that works either in state government or ancillary to state government that has more pressure on her than Dr. Courtney Taylor. When the governor's central message is economic development, we are bringing more jobs to Mississippi, and your job is to make sure that we have people to fill those jobs, the stakes are pretty high. Courtney, good morning.
Good morning, Richard. Thanks for having me. Yeah, they are. No pressure though, right? It's fine. We're fine. Everything's fine. But no, really, it's I do better under pressure, so it's a lot of fun.
Do you feel that pressure? Because we know that central to the governor's policy and his work on a day-to-day basis, it's about raising the median incomes for Mississippians and bringing good, high-paying jobs to the state of Mississippi. But then there's this workforce development piece where we need to make sure that we have people that can fill these jobs or have people who are moving toward being able to fill these jobs.
Absolutely. I think it's more than pressure, though. Really, it's just urgency, and urgency is not something that we're used to kind of in the education and government space. So trying to move a system from worrying about checking boxes, which includes the boxes that we create as an office, and towards a world where if it needs to be done, we've got to get it done and we've got to figure out the details later. So I think the pressure is there. It's just like just a normal level. Here's the pressure. It's always there. The urgency is the way we kind of incorporate that pressure. And some things are more urgent than others.
We, during the legislative session this year, we talked a fair amount with Senator Boyd about the upskill program. She and others were involved in that particular legislation. It was a piece that got across the finish line with both the House and the Senate signing off on this and getting it to the governor's desk. And it's about, well, you tell me what it's about. Let's do that in your words instead of me trying to paraphrase it.
So I'll tell you from my words is it's ultimately about providing an incentive to individuals who are 24 years and older, who maybe for whatever reason didn't get into one of these priority career paths and they need to go back to college. Mississippi is the highest college going state percentage wise in the nation, or at least it was 2 years ago. But by the time you get to year 2, we dropped to 37th. So we're really good at sending kids to school, maybe not so good at keeping them there. We tend to believe.
I'm sorry, let me interrupt. I feel like we just got lost in numbers or could if you weren't paying attention. I want you to say what you just said again. Mississippi, in terms of initial people going to college, is number 1 in the country?
And we've worked with the Mississippi Business Alliance with Scott Waller over there. We send something like 80% of our kids end up going to college.
Wow.
And I think it's actually higher than that, but that's in Mississippi.
But then the
they just don't
retention
necessarily
rates,
stay.
the retention rate is a problem.
Yep. After year 1, that drops to 37th. We dropped to 37th for percentage of students enrolled. Of Mississippi students. So, and there's a lot of factors. Like, this is not just, a single dimensional issue. There's a lot of factors there. We've tried to identify as an office working through the State Workforce Investment Board, like, what are things we can actually control and impact? That's part of where the Career Coach program came from is let's get them in the right programs. And that's where Upskill can help, I think.
What is the level of reception that you are finding with adults in Mississippi, college-age students in Mississippi, for some of the programs that are in place? Programs that are designed to get them into careers that are steady and are stable and are providing a good living wage with the opportunity to grow and advance.
So I think that people want it when they can understand it. And so a big piece of this is it goes beyond marketing, but it's there has to be a job waiting on the backside for the person, especially adults. That's what they need. So we have seen a pretty good reception to it. What we are lacking right now, ultimately in the long run, and we're working on this, is an incentive to provide more of these programs. I think, what we're trying to do and what I hope to do with Upskill is clear some of the noise for people. You can major in anything you want to. You can go wherever you want. But if you go here for these programs, it will ultimately, at some level, not be free, but it will be a much lower cost to attend school, because there's always other costs to attend school than just tuition.
Sure.
And so that's the goal. Incentivize them to do more of what we want them to do. And I think that will help, especially the adults who are working right now, but maybe can't come up with a couple $1,000s a semester to go to school, or even $500 in some cases, to get them going. So I'm hopeful that they'll really receive this and be excited about it. We've just got to get some more seats in these programs for students.
You know, maybe the most precious commodity for a lot of us is time. Finding the time to say, hey, I'm working and I have a new family, a small family, a big family, and we would love to have a little bit of recreational time. How do you expect me to find the time to go to school or to go back to school so that I can train for whatever job it is that we're talking about that ultimately would be better for my family? How do you work and meet people where they are so that this can become a reality?
So, there's a ton of people around the state in our community colleges and universities working on that exact thing. The big thing is we try to, apply some learning, some pressure, whatever the word is, to help colleges understand that you're not going to be able to have an 8-hour-a-day program with all these different things. It's got to be a couple or maybe 8 hours, 2 days a week. Meeting people where they are is really difficult because they have to decide that there's value in going for the thing that they're going to try to go for. Yeah. The one thing we can do is make that faster so that they're going to lose money. They're going to lose opportunity regardless. We want that to be in as short a time period as possible without jeopardizing what they're learning. So we're not saying we need to cut programs or cut the length of programs, but they do need to be shorter in the calendar. So that people can look at this. You can do anything for a year. That's kind of the way I've approached life. You can do anything for a year. You start talking 2, 3, and 4 years, that's a different world.
Yeah. Courtney Taylor is the executive director at Accelerate Mississippi. A lot on her plate, a lot on her team's plate right now. Sometimes I feel like we hesitate to talk about real dollars. Like we can talk about them in the abstract when it's $1 million projects or $100 million projects or $1 billion. But when we get down to talking about salaries and what is going into your bank account on a weekly or biweekly basis, that becomes a little harder to talk about. What about salaries for peoples that are going through these upskill programs or are following the tracks or the advice of Accelerate Mississippi to get into some of these jobs that are in such high demand right now?
$20 an hour is our focus. That's our floor. If it's not at $20 an hour, we're very quickly going to get there. We don't really spend any time on it.
Okay.
So that helps some. We've got programs in the Delta right now, working with the planning district, the community college, and the industrial company is the name of it up there, where people are coming through a 4-week program or 2-week program, going right to work, making $20, $21 an hour. It's construction.
That's the equivalent of a $40,000 salary if you're operating on a 2,000-hour work week, right?
Yep. Pretty good starting wage, especially for people. We're seeing people who are really underemployed. Maybe they were doing just really hard labor that had no upskill from there. So we've got that program going there and in Vicksburg. And we're not talking about thousands. And so that's the big issue with workforce is we've kind of lulled people into thinking we're going to help thousands or hundreds of thousands of people with this little amount of money. Okay. And we're trying to be real honest about that. It's going to be hundreds, not thousands. Okay.
You got time to hang with us for a few more minutes?
Love to, yeah.
Courtney Taylor, Executive Director with Accelerate Mississippi. We're talking about job growth, about high-impact jobs, filling open jobs, and making sure that the future generation is prepared for the jobs that are here in Mississippi, all in the name of keeping people here in the state of Mississippi. We're back with you right after this. Mornings with Richard Cross, SuperTalk, Mississippi.
From the Venable Glass Traffic.
From Sumner to Summit to Summerall, Richard has something for you. Mornings with Richard Cross on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Back with you on on this Tuesday morning, April 21st edition of Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank, rooted in our community, communitybank.net. Courtney Taylor is my guest, executive director with Accelerate Mississippi. We're talking filling jobs and job growth and the programs that are in place to help with new and more and better jobs in Mississippi. I want to go back to right before the break. You were talking about that $21 starting wage in construction jobs, and you said that was a really short program that gets people into that category. Is that right?
It is. Yeah, we funded. It's 2 to 3 weeks, depending. It's about 100 hours. Where they get, just some basic construction skills as well as financial literacy, so that when they get a bank account and start getting checks deposited, they know how it works. We actually fund that through state dollars, and this is a program the governor announced a little while back called Reconnect that we fund it through. So people earn a small stipend to go through the program to help them offset some of their expenses, and then they go to work really quickly. And we only operate that program where companies are hiring immediately. So it's not a multiple year, like let's put the talent out there and hope somebody gets it. It is a let's get them going right now kind of program, which is increasingly what we're trying to get to.
Yeah. Who is this for?
So the target is for on the customer or the client side, I guess, would be for any industry, healthcare, construction, specifically for what we call our priority occupations. People who are going into jobs that are in high demand that we've already identified. And then we're targeting underemployed or unemployed Mississippians. Strong emphasis on the underemployed, which is where the stipend comes in. Okay. We've got people who are working, they're just stuck in jobs that they can't get out of for whatever reason. You can't, to your point earlier, it's really hard to quit your job when you have one to go take a multiple year program. And so we're not trying to sell people on the fact that you can shortcut this thing to success, because you can't. But we can at least get them started. And most of these companies have some kind of, apprenticeship or some kind of work-based learning deal where they'll skill you more once you get there. We just have to get them there.
Is there a specific location for this right now?
It's offered all over the state. We are working in South Delta right now, Greenville, Vicksburg, Jackson, CMPDD, or the Central Mississippi Planning and Development District, or South Central Works has a big grant they've been working on. Those are the two regions that have applied and are actively using this funding at the moment. So that's where we're focusing. And so it's there. When other regions want it, we actually have met with some school systems around the state, K-12 school systems, because we have students in the, maybe late in the 11th grade year or in their 12th grade year who say, oh no, I didn't go through a CTE program. I have no idea what I want to do, but I need to do something. So we're trying to take that captive audience and turn it into an eligible workforce. Again, we're not going to make an electrician or an engineer in weeks and get them on the path.
So, and I'm sorry to belabor this point, but just to be clear, if there's somebody listening right now who is looking for a job that pays better than the job that they are in right now, let's say they're making minimum wage, and they want to go through one of these programs, in 4 weeks, they could be working in a job that at minimum would pay them $40,000 a year?
They could.
That's pretty remarkable.
Yep. So if they're
and if it's in the
South
construction...
Delta,
well, I was just going to say, if it's in the construction world and we're talking about $20 or $21 an hour, that $40,000, $42,000 salary is without overtime. There aren't many construction jobs where you're only working 40 hours a week, are there?
Yep. No, they're getting at least 50, and with the weather as good as it's been, a lot of them are getting more than that. So they're able to work. They got to get their bodies in shape for it, because it is work. We're not going to back away from that. It's real work. There's real opportunity. The construction industry is going to be thriving in Mississippi for years. It's not going to slow down anytime soon. So we're just trying to focus. There's only so many very entry level people they can take at once, though. So we're trying to spread that around, and we're working. The companies are being really helpful. It goes beyond that, but that's the one we're really focusing on, because that was where the biggest gap was. Yeah. But prior to some of these programs, you really had to get the job before you could get training for the job on these entry level things. So trying to fix that.
It's interesting, Courtney. I've got a friend that's a contractor, and one of his biggest issues is labor, and it's getting people to show up, not just the first day or the first week, but for days on end and weeks on end. And he said the same thing that you're saying. He's like, I'll pay somebody $20 an hour entry level, and they can grow from that if they are responsible and show up for work very, very quickly.
Yep. They will. We're trying to work through, how do we help them get their bodies ready a little bit faster? Because if you've not been doing this work, even just moving around and standing all day, if you haven't been doing that, is hard on your body. So there's some realities. I think one of the things we found is, by and large, a lot of people want to do the work. They just don't really know what the work is. So the more we can expose them to the work and let them kind of choose after that. And Amazon's been a great partner with us in trying to help set up some of these pathways as well, because they're obviously a big construction driver.
You talked about high schools a second ago. What about the role that Accelerate Mississippi is playing in high schools in terms of helping that 11th grader or even that 12th grader who's got graduation coming up in a month and isn't sure what they are going to do next?
Yep. So a couple of years ago, we started with our community colleges and opened it up where they could teach their programs to high schoolers. And it's been a little bit of a ride trying to figure it out. We're not trying to supplant the K-12 budget or, do all of that stuff. But we just can't wait on everybody else to figure it out or prioritize it. So we're just providing the opportunity. So we have some schools who are already working with their community colleges. They're offering things like welding, maybe I think Jones and Southwest and maybe Gulf Coast, and there's others, but to provide those opportunities. So we're just trying to expand that. And then again, it's if companies are hiring, we want to be able to do this. But if you think about a kid in high school who says, "Oh no, I've got real things coming," you get them exposed to some basic electrical or basic plumbing, or even engineering, principles or, production work, whatever. They can, in some cases, go get summer jobs. They can go get, just higher skilled jobs than filing or sweeping, things like that. So it's pretty cool. It takes a little while to get these things going. You got to get all the partners on board, and they have to understand what they can do and what they can't do. And we have to understand how to get the money moved. And I know nobody cares about that, but those are realities in this space of making this stuff work.
So to me, there are a couple of conversations that are happening here. Some of what you're talking about, and you pointed to a second ago, it is work, right? It's manual labor in a lot of cases. These are blue collar jobs. But we've also heard the conversation that we have had with the governor about higher paying jobs and keeping people in Mississippi, keeping college graduates in Mississippi. We heard it with Philip Gunn just a second ago. Yep. The conversation that he's having with, dads in particular about, hey, what's your vision for the future? And he said he talked to some people last week and said, I want my kids to grow up here and then want to stay here. So what about the other piece of the non-blue collar, construction jobs, more in the white collar sector? Is that also a focus for Accelerate?
It is. It's just a longer pathway. So, you've got your project manager type trainings. You've got your construction programs at universities. Southern Miss and Mississippi State have some really good ones. So we need those. It's just we can't really impact those from where we sit. Outside of maybe using the upskill to help encourage people into those programs as we move forward, but these aren't for universities yet. So yes, it is a focus. It is things we want to do. The reality, though, is the biggest gap is in the volume areas. And then the way we're kind of working through those programs is trying to use what we're learning from business and industry to impact the curriculum. And then try to push the speed with which we get people out. There's a lot of delays built in systemically in our nation.
You've talked a lot about the role that community colleges are playing in this. What about four-year universities? You mentioned Mississippi State and Southern Miss there just a second ago. Obviously, Ole Miss involved in that, and Alcorn State and Jackson State and Mississippi Valley and others. In terms of partnering with four-year universities, what does that look like right now?
Is my signal okay?
It's breaking up.
Out?
No, it's breaking up a little bit here at the end. We've been okay until just now, but it may need to. You good now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I just saw it bouncing. So,
yeah, just final
so
thought
say that
on
again.
just final thought on the role of four-year universities that they're playing, in addition to the role that community colleges are playing.
So 4 years critical as well. We've got to make sure we're skilling people in things we actually have jobs for, and we need to do more of it. So we're going to have to expand programs across the board for things that are in high demand.
Outstanding. Courtney, always appreciate your time. Look forward to visiting with you again soon.
Appreciate you, Richard.
Dr. Courtney Taylor, Executive Director at Accelerate Mississippi. A lot of opportunities that are there for those that want them right now in the state of Mississippi. We'll take a timeout. We've got lots of news headlines to get to with you in the final half hour this morning. It's Mornings with Richard Cross, presented by Community Bank. We're back with you right after this.
From the Seabrook
Morning, partner. The sun is up, the coffee is on, and you're starting your day right. Mornings with Richard Cross, here on SuperTalk, Mississippi.
Good to be with you on this Tuesday morning. It is Mornings with Richard Cross. Love to hear from you on the C Spire text line, 601-879-4395. 601-879-4395. Right now at C Spire, new and current customers can get a free phone, watch, and tablet, plus 100 gigs of data for just $90. There's more to see. Visit cspire.com today. Thanks to Courtney Taylor for joining us. She is Executive Director at Accelerate Mississippi. Let's see here. JP and Corinth. Impossible to listen on a day like today and not be impressed with the people who are working hard to make Mississippi even better. I agree. JP, that's a good message. I appreciate you jumping in on the C Spire text line. Thomas in Greenwood says moving around and standing is a problem, huh? Maybe not for a go-getter like you, Thomas, but for somebody who has only been sitting in a high school classroom and hasn't been working in a construction field or a labor field, or for somebody who has not been working, period. Yeah, that's a change for your body. C-Spire text line, I do construction and am a contractor. It has slowed down a bit, upwards of 10 companies pulling plans because there is no work. Well, that's not the case everywhere. That may be the situation that you find yourself in, but there certainly are places where there is a lot of work and not enough workers. It may be anecdotal, but I mentioned a second ago, I have a friend who is a contractor that is constantly looking for not just workers, but reliable workers, people that are going to show up, that they're going to do what they're told to do, that they're going to work hard, they're going to put in an honest day's work. And that honest day's work doesn't look like 8 hours, especially not this time of year. It's starting at 6 or 6:30 and working all day. And, you knock out 5 12-hour days, Monday through Friday, and you've popped 60 hours in a week.
Oh, yeah, man.
And that's hard, and it's tiring. And somebody said about snoring one time. I heard this one time. You might even have been the one that said it. Had a father or a grandfather that said, if you can't... no, I think this was a line from Yellowstone. Kevin Costner said it. Said that my dad used to say, if you can't sleep through another man snoring, you didn't work hard enough that day.
There you go. Man, I was on a framing crew in college at Ole Miss while up there playing baseball in the summers. I decided not to travel off and play summer ball because I'd done it, and it was just kind of, monotonous and all that good stuff. So, I want to do something where I'll learn a skill and also be tested a little bit physically. And a buddy of mine who was a linebacker at Vandy, he came down and lived in Oxford, and we worked on a framing crew for a couple summers. And, man, I learned so much. And it was hard work, because we were toting the laminated beams and, everything you can imagine. But what a great skill to learn at a young age. And I've used it. I can't tell you how much. I still have my notebooks with, what a T is in a corner and everything you could imagine. I'm 51 now. I did that when I was like 21. So, those types of skills don't leave you. And, I mean, I just thank God that I was, parents and all were all for it and had an opportunity. And later, one of the partners in the deal was one of my largest clients in finance, and he used me because he goes, "Boy, you know how to work." Yes, sir. That's so. Yeah, there was not a lot of standing around, as Thomas was saying. It was work, and more work, and it was from when the sun came up to when the sun went down. But when you got that paycheck at the end of the week, buddy, let me tell you, it was nice. And 21 years old, making some good money.
Yeah,
and not $20 an hour, but back then it was probably equivalent to that. So
sure. Get a message on the C Spire text line from Dr. Michael Heindel, the president at Northwest Mississippi Community Colleges, Mississippi Community College. Shout out to Dr. Taylor this morning. Appreciate her leadership and all that she and her great team are doing at Accelerate Mississippi. We understand the urgency and are getting after it in North Mississippi. More to come. Let's go. And oh, by the way, go Rangers, he says. Good to hear from Dr. Heindel this morning. Will we ever know if Mississippians are actually the ones filling these data center jobs? Ask around, I guess. And I'm not being flippant when I say that, but I mean, the answer is yes, but not exclusively.
No, we can get Nick Shirley on task. So.
Well,
I'm kidding, but.
I mean, and it depends on what kind of jobs you're talking about with the data centers, right? Are you talking about full-time employment with AWS? Yes, in some cases, those are jobs that are going to Mississippians. In some cases, it's people who are moving in from out of state. And that's also a good thing, by the way, when we talk about increasing population. Mississippi's population has been stagnant at best over the course of about a decade. We've been hovering somewhere between 2.8 and 3.1 million people in Mississippi for, I don't know, a couple of decades now. And when you talk about population growth, yes, we want jobs to go to existing Mississippians, but people coming into Mississippi with families, taking on jobs that are full-time and permanent jobs, that is also a good thing because you're talking about increasing the tax base, increasing the people who are contributing to the state's economy. That is a good thing. Going back to our conversation with Philip Gunn, Bubba in Starkville says it sounds like Philip Gunn is against universal school choice. However, he would get my vote regarding eliminating property tax. Bubba, I'm not sure that is exactly the takeaway that I had. In fairness to Philip Gunn, I asked a question about school choice with 30 seconds until the end of the interview. So I didn't really give him the chance to expound on that, and I wanted to at least start that conversation there. But he did talk about compromise, and he did talk about consensus building and, working to figure out, okay, what are the concerns that exist? How do we address those concerns, and how do we get legislation in place that gives us a chance to get to a solution that is best for the state of Mississippi? C-Spire text line, I had an AWS recruiter contact me for a chief engineering job. I actually work on the coast, and I'm not interested, but they did reach out to me. So, again, anecdotal, but yes, that would be a Mississippian who has been contacted about one of those jobs. All right, what have we got from the other side of the world right now? 2 regional officials have told the Associated Press that the United States and Iran are signaling they will hold a new round of ceasefire talks in Islamabad as a fragile 2-week truce is due to expire tomorrow. And remember, they are ahead of us on the time clock. The time clock? That sounded very antiquated. In terms of time, they are hours ahead of us. What is it, 8.5 hours ahead? So that clock is ticking. The official spoke on the condition of anonymity. Pakistan-led mediators received confirmation that the top negotiators will now arrive in Islamabad early Wednesday. So it sounds like the timeline has been pushed back just a touch. Pakistan is preparing for this new round of talks even after President Donald Trump appeared to throw cold water on hopes for reaching an agreement to end the war, telling Bloomberg News yesterday that he's highly unlikely to renew the ceasefire that is set to expire on Wednesday. We mentioned this earlier. Iran's chief negotiator wrote in a post on X that, quote, "We do not accept negotiations under the shadow of threats." And the Islamic Republic has been preparing to reveal new cards on the battlefield.
That's rich. I mean, they don't accept threats, but they like to give them.
They do. And sometimes the only language that the IRGC speaks is the language of explosions. And it may, you are working toward diplomacy. You have been given an off-ramp for this war. It is not the solution that you want, but at some point you would like your country to stop being torn apart by bombs and missiles. You might want to take the deal on the table. The problem is, with many of these Islamic extremists, they don't care about that. They just don't care. And so it's hard to negotiate with somebody that doesn't care.
Well, they want to negotiate with a bomb behind them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The ABC in Mississippi is still behind schedule. No, that's shocking to you. Around the 1st of March, they were 220,000 cases behind in terms of delivery to restaurants, bars, and package stores. For the week ending April 12th, last week, still 172,000 cases pending delivery. Legislature explored the idea of letting distributors from outside the state of Mississippi service clients directly. They did not come to an agreement on that, and so Mississippi, behind the veil of a third-party vendor, continues to allow an outside entity to run the state's ABC woefully inadequately. Great news.
Taking a final look.
No matter where you're from, Abbeville, Batesville, D'Iberville, or any other ville in the SIP, you're starting your day off right. Mornings with Richard Cross. Super Talk, Mississippi.
Thanks for being with us on this Tuesday morning, the 21st of April. Tim Cook announced that he is stepping down as the CEO of Apple, a job that he inherited from the late Steve Jobs, ending a 15-year reign that saw the company's market value soar by more than $3.6 trillion. He will turn over CEO duties to Apple's head of hardware engineering, John Ternus, on September 1st, and will stay on as executive chairman of the company's board. That is similar to the transitions that have been made by Jeff Bezos at Amazon and Reed Hastings at Netflix. To allow Cook to assume that job, Arthur Levinson is relinquishing his role as Apple's non-executive chairman, but will remain on the board of directors. My guess is it also gives Tim Cook the ability to still earn a salary, though I don't know how necessary that is. When Tim Cook moved into the role of CEO at Apple, year one compensation was a massive one-time 10-year stock grant that was worth $378 million. That was in year one when he transitioned into the CEO role. Then, Lance, his compensation trended way, way, way down. In 2012 and 2013, he made just over $4.2 million. In 2014, $9.2 million, then a little over $10 million, then back down to about $9 million. And then it got really good for Tim Cook. Starting in 2017, his salaries, and by the way, this is total compensation, so a combination of salary. Since 2016, his base salary has been $3 million, but there have been performance bonuses and stock options and liquidated stock, preferred stock awards, and all of those things. So starting in 2017, $12.8 million, $15.7, $11.6, $14.8. Then 2021, massive stock-based awards, $98.7 million. In 2022, $99.4 million, $63 million, $75 million, $74 million in the most recent year for Tim Cook. So whether or not he continues to earn a salary or not probably doesn't matter a whole lot.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
that is quite the run.
Yeah, you don't really need the money, but, hey, it's always nice to be paid.
Yeah.
You don't want to hang it up if you don't have to. As I say, a lot of folks, when they retire, you kind of lose purpose a little bit. Sort of wander around like a little puppy dog. But when you're getting paid big money and you're head of the board and all that, you'll still have, a lot of say-so, be engaged, and probably have a lot of, input on how the company moves forward from here, which was probably a good idea given the success that he's had as the head of it.
Yeah. Kash Patel, the director of the FBI, has claimed that the story from The Atlantic last week is patently false. An article alleging that his drinking and overall conduct was malicious. He says that story was malicious and was factually inaccurate. There were unnamed sources who described Patel as impulsive and absent from his post, claimed that he was concerned about his job security, and that he was frequently drinking to the point that he was missing meetings. Not only does he say those allegations are malicious and false, he is suing The Atlantic for $250 million. That lawsuit was filed yesterday in federal court in Washington, D.C. Staff writer Sarah Fitzpatrick wrote the story and published it on Friday. She said Patel's drinking had become a source of concern among government officials and cited sources who worried about his behavior becoming a threat to public safety. The Atlantic, for its part, has said, "We stand by our reporting on Kash Patel, and we will vigorously defend The Atlantic and our journalists against this meritless lawsuit." I guess it comes down to whether or not it's true, right?
I mean, how do you prove that?
How do you prove that? Pretty significant allegation and a pretty significant rebuttal from Kash Patel. We'll get into this more tomorrow, but a bit of a disagreement among administration officials of when the price of gas is going down. The Secretary of Energy, Chris Wright, says prices may not drop below $3 a gallon until next year. The president says, I vehemently disagree with him. Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, also says that we could get to $3 a gallon gas this summer. Right now, hovering in the neighborhood of $4 a gallon. Thanks for being with us on this Tuesday. We're back with you tomorrow morning. For Lance, I'm Richard. Have a great day.
A SuperTalk Mississippi media production.